I love the diamond on your neck. Show me the diamond in your mind. A lot of rappers in their feelings. They see the numbers doing great. They see the food that's on the plate. So they got nothing else to say. I'm not like any of you. 550 too many of you. Where's the pen skill in any of you? I guess they really let anyone through.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to Season 2, Week 2 of the Commonwealth Esports. Today we have Mediocre at Best going against the Monster Mash. I am your play-by-play, Tank the Crate, and I would like to welcome my color play, Sneezes.
Hey, how's it going, everybody? This week we have the 2-0 versus the 0-2, so maybe upset alert, maybe someone stays undefeated and someone stays winless. It's I'd say on paper this is a pretty one-sided affair. You know, Monster Mash didn't look very good in their first week, but you never know. Teams turn it around. They've an E-sub this week. They brought in a new jungler, and they've moved some players around. So always a good opportunity. We're going through pick ban right now. It's going to be a little slow because of the E-sub. It's going to result in some ban losses. So,
if I remember correctly, Mediocre at Best should be losing 2 of their bans, and Monster Mash is going to be losing 1 of their bans. So that is definitely going to make it a little bit harder for Mediocre at Best to take out any main issues or problems that they're going to be dealing with in this game. But who are you excited to see mainly play this time around for both on both teams?
So we can't see the players right now because of Pro Draft, but I'm super excited to see Catastrophe go back to his natural position of the mid lane. You know, this guy is an excellent mid laner. He plays a lot of very strong champions really well, and the meta really favors his playstyle. You know, this guy is excellent at some of the stuff you saw in the LCS of the last couple of months. You know, Corki, Azir, which we just saw get banned. Even stuff like Orianna, his rise is very good. He has a really diverse champion pool, and if you put him on something that can control space and can force people to play around his like zone, then you're gonna have a bad time. So I'm really excited to see him move out of the jungle and into his natural position this week.
I'm definitely excited to see Snow Too Funky, even though they did take the loss in their last game. Snow Too Funky definitely was doing very well in the top lane against I don't remember exactly who, but he held his best that he can. But when it came down to it, it's just the team fights weren't in his favor. But I am also excited to see Catastrophe.
So first pick Aatrox, really interesting. I like the Fiora Kai'Sa bans coming out of Monster Mash, but the first pick Aatrox is just saying, hey, we're confident that we can blind pick this. They might roll swap it into mid, but I doubt it. It's most likely a top lane Aatrox, and it's a power pick, but I'd say with all the nerfs, it's probably not as priority as before. There are counters, you know. Use stuff like Kled, even Rumble does pretty well against it. There's a lot of options.
It looks like Monster Mash is going to bring out their support and their jungler out with J4 and Zyra. Let's see if Mediocre at Best is going to answer with either their support or their jungler next. Or hopefully they're going to try and get their ADC on the board before more bans come out. And Caitlyn, it looks like it's going to be as well.
I wonder if they go Caitlyn Morgana here. That's a really strong duo. Oh. Yeah, it's a really strong duo because you essentially, the Q duration on Morgana is less so long that you're guaranteed to get your trap. So if you proc your headshot and then Morgana lands a Q, you can headshot, you know, Q them as Caitlyn and just do so much damage. So, and the spell shield is gonna be great for dealing with Zyra. I love the Ashe Zyra, dude. These pick bans are getting so spicy. We have the classic C9 bot lane. You know, sneaky elimination on the Ashe Zyra. It's not a great pick into Kate Morgana, again, because of the spell shield, but Zyra has enough damage to chunk that spell shield down. So, super interesting as we get into the second ban phase.
And especially with Ashe and her slow, it's going to be a lot harder to get away from them once Zyra definitely locks them down. It looks like they're going to get Nico out of the way for the mid lane. Nico has been a very interesting character just in League of Legends overall. Usually, she's kind of underwhelming in the beginning, but once late game comes and she can start getting into the back line, I've seen a couple Nico one-shots with her ultimate before.
Oh yeah, she does a ton of damage. What I think Nico adds in terms of the power that is getting banned is that glacial build. You're talking about like 4,000 gold to finish your 2 core items. It's just so cheap. It's so cheap, and you don't really lose out that much on damage because you land more skill shots when they're slowed. So we're finally closing out the ban phase. The Echo is really nice. It's a flex pick. It can jungle, it can mid and top. So really strong pick. Fire and the Fox is a known Echo player in this league. They eat an Echo ban pretty much every week. I was surprised it didn't go first pick, but the Aatrox is a nice pick here. Oh, I wonder if they're going to lock in more. That's really interesting. They have so much zone control and so much consistent damage. Ashe, Mordekaiser, Zyra, Plants, Jarvan. They have just a ton of space controlling ability, and they're giving Catastrophe the counter pick, so that's pretty good. Yorick dumpsters Mordekaiser though, and I can say that definitively. Even though I'm a terrible top laner, I've lost this matchup a million times. So
it looks like it might actually be an Aatrox jungle, which I have not personally seen myself at all. I'm not even sure exactly how well that's gonna go. I mean, I can see why his ganking potential.
It is Aatrox jungle, really nice. Yeah, I think it's just it's meant to be a flex pick. I don't think they went in there thinking, hey, we're gonna jungle this Aatrox. I think they said, hey, we could jungle this Aatrox, but they wanted to. I would be super shocked if Corki doesn't get locked in here. But basically, Catastrophe is gonna have a counter pick, which is really nice. But back to the Aatrox, it's a solid jungler. The built-in sustain is pretty good, and I think they used it for the flex power, which is good. This is why this team is 2-0. So overall draft wise, I got to give a slight advantage to MAB, but MOM, they got some of the champions that they wanted.
I definitely
So
say
looks
that
like we're gonna finally get into the official pick ban here. We do pro drafts as a way to mitigate champion issues with players. We don't want players being handicapped in the pick ban because they don't have fully unlocked accounts. The game's been out for a long time now, going on 10 years, but not everyone has a giga old account like me and has everything. So
it is definitely good to get the pro draft going on, so everyone can kind of get a little bit extra time to make sure that they have all the appropriate champions in the right spots that they need or really want them to be.
Yeah, I think this was a solid draft from both teams. What I'm looking for is, what are these junglers gonna do? Jarvan probably has priority over Aatrox, but you have some really interesting lanes. The side lanes I think are heavily favored against Monster Mash. I think Caitlyn Morgana is a really strong lane. Zyra Ashe really just want to farm. If Zyra gets caught, they're pretty much dead. Like if Zyra gets queued by Morgana, Caitlyn's just gonna eat her alive. And Yorick just is gonna need to get ganked. If you let the Yorick go, it can take over the game just from a split push perspective, because the matchup really doesn't favor Mordekaiser at all. So I wonder what Monster Mash is gonna choose to do here. They're already 0-2. They need to make some plays. I want to see this Jarvan get out on the map early and maybe synergize with this Ryze a little bit on the snare into EQ and get some early ganks going and make this Anivia get an egg form.
I definitely will say that Monster Mash definitely is probably gonna have to depend heavily not only on the J4 but Mordekaiser and the Ryze spike, because Ashe and Zyra, if they get a little bit behind, both of them are kind of iffy champions that it's kind of hard to come back even from the slightest disadvantage there, especially with the Kate Morgana, who has honestly one of the strongest power spikes for the bot lane, I personally feel like.
Oh yeah, definitely. The issue there with this team for mediocre at best is that Kate kind of goes through a power trough in the mid game, especially if she doesn't get ahead in lane. And while Anivia can stall and wave clear forever, eventually the Ashe is going to outscale a lot of this, and Zyra's going to scale. Like the scaling on Monster Mash is super good, but they do have the right tools to get on the map early and make some plays. So, in League of Legends, not everything is decided in pick ban. You can have a bad draft and still win. You can have a great draft and still lose. I think execution here is really important, because there's certain strengths from mediocre at best and there's certain strengths from Monster Mash, and So many M's. So many M's. Teams need to have less M's. No, I'm just kidding. But yeah, it's really about execution and some dice roll stuff, right? What dragons come up? Can Aatrox handle neutral objectives like Baron? Who's gonna path better? Who's gonna, are the supports gonna roam? There's so many questions that we're gonna answer this game, and like I said, factors going into this, I think Lamb's Arrows Yorick is going to be super, super important. If he can turn them into a 4-1 team and split up this huge team fighting comp from Monster Mash, then I think then Mediocre Best will be in the driver's seat. But if Catastrophe can pop off, and if Islamic Samurai can get the early game going, then we're going to see some really interesting decisions that they have to make because of the 4-1 and because of the 5v5. I think 5v5 clearly goes to Monster Mash, but if they play the map right, Mediocre at best can kind of pull these guys to death. And again, with this league, the way people play, the way people look at stuff, and the way these teams synergize is kind of up and down. It could just be a huge 5v5 fest and skirmish fest. Like, who knows? That's kind of the beauty of playing out the game. So I think we've talked pretty much enough about draft. The last point I want to make is that both teams are running double teleport. Really like that. I like the map pressure that you can apply with that, but I'd expect more of like a gentleman's agreement in lane. There's no ignites. There's no one's going in and trying to get kills, trying to get first blood. So expect the first blood to come from the junglers.
I'm also kind of on the comment of the double TP. If you notice who the TPs are on, Yorick has one of the hardest split push advantages when it comes to being able to 2v1, especially with his ultimate down. And Nivea is more going to be using her teleport towards getting it into team fights and making sure she doesn't get caught out or in the proper position to begin with. But if you look at Monster Match, both Mordekaiser and Ryze can split push rather well and create a lot of pressure in any lane that they need. And especially Mordekaiser also has a advantage when it comes to fighting. Ryze has even more of an advantage because his ultimate is pretty much a lane hop. If he's getting pushed out of the top lane, he can take his ult and then throw himself right back into the team as well. So Anivia just has the small downside of not being able to push as hard as Ryze, but Ryze definitely is going to have a hard time in the beginning of lane since Anivia's power gets their hopefully a row at the beginning. It's definitely going to put a little bit of a difference between Ryze and Anivia.
Well, it all comes to the item builds too. I think the real factor with that lane to me is range and the global pressure. Both champions push pretty hard. I think if Ryze chooses to expend mana, they can outpush Anivia, but Anivia is going to passively push harder. And the other factor is the oh my god, I'm sorry. The other factor here is, the jungle synergy. I think Anivia can stun Ryze from a really long distance away, where Ryze kind of has to telegraph, hey, I'm going in, hey, I'm going to snare this Anivia. So it's also later in the game, Anivia is just going to be able to walk to any lane, press R, and just eat up like 1,000 gold worth of minions at any time you get a balling wave. So the later the game goes, the stronger Ryze gets, but also the more that Anivia's going to have the opportunity to just stall and stall and stall and stall forever. And really, if I'm mediocre at best and I get in a bad situation, I'm saying to myself, hey, I have a mid laner with unlimited wave clear and an extra life. Let's buy time for Yorick. All I want to do is 4-1. All I want to do is clear waves, buy time for my Yorick. And eventually Yorick will be able to split push. The towers only are so tanky and Yorick pretty much scales infinitely. So that's kind of what I would do if I get in a bad spot as mediocre at best. But they have had an excellent early game, so.
Both teams are definitely performing to the best of the abilities, I hope so. But as we soon get underway, what are your small predictions for this game? Who do you think is going to start off with the lane advantage? Who do you think is going to have the better push potentials, and who do you think is going to really be able to be where they need to be?
I predict first blood happens in the top lane. I'm not going to say who. I'm not going to say which champion. It could be the jungler. It could be the support roaming in. Who knows? But I predict the way that lane plays out is super volatile, and that's what I predict is going to happen.
Real interesting. I have
So
actually not seen that Dragon Knight skin before for Mordekaiser, but I will say it looks absolutely awesome on him.
I would normally give it to the Papercraft Anivia as far as the skin to win is concerned, but I gotta go the $100 Arcade Caitlyn Prestige Edition. You know, getting that mad money. Props to Gavrilo there for having that 6 Skrilla laying around for skins. Good job.
Well, it has that unfair advantage with just the prestige word into it. So
Oh yeah,
it's kind of,
exactly. I always default if you got $100 over time to blow on all that and get some crazy arcade Kalen skin, you know, more power to you. If you have a Hex Tech skin, you know, I give that the top too, because getting those gemstones is hard. Although I am up there in gemstones again. I'm all the way up to 6 again, and I have 2 more coming with my Worlds Pass. So, you know, if I keep my honor good, I'll be if I'm a good boy for the rest of the year, I might get another Hex Tech skin, which would be pretty cool.
well, it's not really hard to be good in this game, be a good boy in this game when half the community is toxic and the other half is kind of, trying not to be.
Yeah, or doesn't you know, or doesn't speak at all, or doesn't speak a language you understand. And that's I had a game today. You know, since we're finalizing loading screen, I had a game today where someone was definitely speaking Chinese, and then another player on the team chimed in Spanish, which was it's really cool, but it's without voice chat. It's like okay, I'm pinging a lot this game. That's all I can. That's all you can do.
Also, looking over the champions again, just realized that we have 4 Conquerors on the board. York, Aatrox, Mordekaiser, and J4 all running Conqueror. That is definitely going to make a little bit of a hard time when it comes to fighting for any of them against their opponents.
Yeah, it comes down to are we gonna have long if so like J4 is really the only interesting choice, right? We know Atrox is gonna go Conqueror. We know York and Mordecai are gonna go Conqueror. But for me, like the J4 choice is super interesting because you can either go Electrocute or you can go Conqueror. And the question that Islamic Samurai is asking here is, are my fights gonna be short and sweet and I'm gonna murder someone like that? Or are they gonna last a long time and we're gonna proc my passive a couple times and do I want the healing? So I like it. I'm curious. I wish, as a spectator, instead of seeing the honor level, I could go and look at the runes. It would be super cool if I could click on Jarvan and see his runes. But alas, you know, we're playing a game that's hosted by a small indie company. And I'm wondering if we have technical difficulties here. This is a long, long, long loading screen.
It happens every once in a while. Definitely first for this season so far. Usually we don't have to wait
Usually we
more
get
than
in and
20
then there's a
seconds.
pause, you know, it's usually not um it's usually not in the loading screen itself. It's usually like right after, and we get that pause. So,
So
oh,
there
there
we
we go.
go
Speak of the devil.
into it.
Shout out to Fire and the Fox, super fan of 100T. You know, hopefully, you know, I wouldn't try out with them just because I think they got Bjergsen coming. No, but that's enough esports commentary. We're into the real esports now, guys. We're into Commonwealth esports.
Yeah, we're the
So
only ones that matter. Forget the pro leagues. We're the ones that are getting up there. We're the true champs here.
we're building the community from scratch.
We slowly get underway into a pause. So who do you think is gonna try for an invade, or do you think it's still gonna be a 5-man stack on both sides?
Teams have shown a strong propensity to 5-point. I think I don't know who has coaches and who doesn't. I don't know who's um, doing the coaching or how that's all going. But I think teams are going to default to the save option. They don't want to. They don't want to risk it, right? You go in there to blue buff. Morgana cues you. You give up first blood. You know, people are tilted. Blah blah blah. So I think teams want to play it safe. They want to play the laning phase out because that's what they're comfortable with, and they're going to do the necessary things in a pro setting in a pro style game to prevent giving up unnecessary information. You know, that's where the 5-point comes from is, hey, no one can cross this line without someone knowing. Um, but it's that risk aversion. Maybe in a couple weeks, teams will, feel less nervous. Maybe mediocre at best is saying, hey, we have an awesome level 1 comp. We're way stronger than these guys. We can go in now. But also, if you're 2-0, you don't want to give it up to a 0-2 team and then be, 2-1. So it really depends what these teams are thinking of. I don't think a lot of people in League of Legends in general play for level 1. It's a super frustrating thing for me, both as a player, as a coach, as a caster, in any capacity at League of Legends. I would love teams to say, hey, the game starts at 0-0, not at like 2 minutes when the minions get to lanes, and we want to get advantages as early as possible. So I'm a huge fan of invading. I like invading for vision. I like invading for kills. I like invading for a host of reasons. But it all comes down to your personal preferences. It all comes down to risk aversion. Some people really like to get those items and relax and get into the game first. So totally, there's no right answer. There's no wrong answer. But I prefer the aggressive playstyle. I want teams to think of the game as a 5-man game from minute 0, rather than like, oh, it's 10 minutes, time to group. You should always be thinking about, when can I group? When can I make something happen? And I think the best teams in the world exemplify that. G2 does everything at level 1. They do whatever they can at level 2. They'll have a team fight at level 3 if they want to. It's it's the creativity and the ability to say, hey, we can still win, because they're also level 3. You don't need your ults to kill them if they don't have ults. So it's I think playstyle wise, the game is going to continue to evolve, and the games are getting shorter over time. Like when I first started playing in season 2, the games lasted like 40 minutes, an hour. Like no one knew how to close. They had to change Baron just so people could end games. But now games last 30 minutes tops. I had a ton of solo queue games today, yesterday, whatever, end in 20 minutes. Like I think games are going to get to the 20-minute mark, much more quickly. And the proactive players and the proactive teams are going to be more successful. So that's my message to everybody. I'm hoping we get into here soon, but anybody listening, anybody watching, my brand of League of Legends that I think is the best is all about proactivity, being proactive and making the first move. So that's what I would encourage teams to do. I know there's a long answer to your question, Tank, but you struck a nerve there. I had to get it out.
It's all good. We all have plenty of time to kill here, and especially it's a really good point to bring up that it's not always in the kills. It's not always in the laning phase. It's always in the how you cooperate with your team, how you make it work together, not just alone.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, it is possible to 1v9 a game, but those are very extreme, very rare cases as well. As we do finally get back underway, it does look like it is going to be a double 5-point stack. Doesn't mean that they still can't be a first blood within the first 2 minutes. League of Legends is always an unpredictable game. Not all 2 games are going to be the same exact.
Yeah, and I think this is kind of a soft 5-point by Red Side. They're kind of hanging this Mordekaiser out to dry a little bit. There's going to be no aggro play here. I think, like we were talking about, teams just want to get to their baseline. Islamic, this is a great ward by Islamic Samurai. This is so full disclosure, right? I coach Islamic. He's on my team. They don't participate in this league, but he's on Lifeline under the Casual Banner brand. We're looking for a league to play in now. We had one lined up and it folded, which is RIP. But that's neither here nor there. This is a ward that we talk about and we coach all the time. So I don't know if everybody can see it. It's right on the other side of Dragon Pit. And the reason the ward is so impactful is a lot of teams are still going to do this general red buff start with the bot lane leash for the jungler. And now you get to 1, confirm the jungler started red, 2, confirm the path that the bot lane took into the lane, and 3, by deductive reasoning, you're not getting invaded. So that ward is super valuable. Teams look out. I would look at that ward all the time. So getting to the laning phase, what are we thinking?
Laning phase, I do think it's an interesting choice for Mordekaiser to go into it with Dora and Shield. I don't know if that's his main item. I just haven't seen it in a hot minute. I've seen Doran's ring before it, but it looks like bot lane is just gonna definitely start trying to get the poke advantage with the Morgana and the Kate, and Ashe is already gonna be brought below half.
Yeah,
mid
this
lane,
is. Go ahead.
mid lane. If you look at Rise, decided I don't need a Doran's, I don't need a Setter. I'll just take a Sapphire and go straight into building my first item, which is probably gonna be a tier of Goddess, if I remember correctly. Is usually the item you want to rush.
Yeah, so the poke advantage is super real here, and there's really not a ton of recourse. You just kind of have to wait and have the lane play out. Ashe is just going to struggle. That's kind of the nature of things. I like the pathing from Islamic Samurai here. He's making sure he gets his golems off the board really quickly. Ooh, Snow with the nice Cocker proc.
And it looks like Snow is definitely trying to dominate his lane as much as he can, and is not getting much resistance from either the jungler or the top lane. And it looks like Aatrox trying to get over into the river.
Yeah, expect a river fight around this scuttle.
There we go. Aatrox getting over the bush finally and going in after the Mordekaiser. Are they going to be able to get a pick here, though? Mordekaiser is trying to get out of there. Is he going to be able to make it out in time? There goes the flash and the Q onto the Aatrox. J4 knocking up the Aatrox, and the flash coming out for first blood onto the Aatrox from J4.
So this is super devastating for Aatrox because not only did he lose top scuttle, he got first blooded, lost his buffs, and Jarvan has the priority on the bottom scuttle. So ton of gold options here. I think Islamicus just wants to ward the jungle. Now he knows that, hey, the whole top side is taken, and he has defensive vision for Snow. So they're feeling super confident. They're super happy with how this went, and Aatrox just has to go collect his golems. I love the TP from Kurt. It's super aggro, so.
Definitely really good choice. And looks in the mid lane, Nivea is actually having a really hard time against this Rise right now. Rise already coming back with this tier of Goddess, giving him a little bit of advantage against Nivea, as he can start stacking up his primary item and getting closer to his, I can't remember the name of the item, but his fully procced up tier with Archangel's Staff. If I remember correctly, should be.
Yeah, it's oh my gosh, you're making me forget too. But yeah, the Archangels into Manamune.
No, Manamune's the attack.
Or no, it's not Miramana. So yeah, I'm bad caster today. Oh, it looks like Jarvan's at base, so Rise is in a little bit of trouble here. But okay, he knows that he knows he can just walk away.
It looks like Aatrox is more worried on that scuttle right now, which is probably a better call right now, since Nivea really doesn't have the mana to assist, and no one really is 6 yet. Top lane should be hitting 6 soon, I believe. If not, I'm going to leave it to the mid lane to get 6 first, as
top lane will hit 6 after this wave, on this next wave, and Anivia just hit 6, so. There we go. Yeah, this is where Anivia, she doesn't take over the game by any means, but she certainly can start dealing with Rise's constant push.
It looks like in the bot lane, there's still the Ashing Zyra is finally being able to get a little bit pressure back onto them.
The CS differential is really high though. All that poke cost them a lot in CS.
It looks like Morgana's gonna get the Q onto the Zyra. Both ignites are gonna come out. Dre 4 going on the Morgana, but not being able to get a knock up in time. It has to take a tower shot as Morgana barely is able to get out. Popping
both. It was a really nice flash. Yeah, really nice flash from Big Black Rainbows. You know, that was a really good, nicely timed gank from Islamic Samurai, but you know, he got a little bit outplayed with the flash.
It looks like Aatrox is trying to get into the jungle and take the Krugs, but Mordekaiser is really far pushed up, so hopefully Aatrox gets 6 out of this and he's able to battle Mordekaiser, who is already level 6. So it is definitely going to be...
this is a little concerning just because of where he is and where the vision. They need to be careful that he doesn't get flanked from behind. This is a really nice play from Panzer the Great. The value of that camp, it can't be understated.
Oh, looks like in the bot lane, Caitlyn is actually gonna get taken out by the Zyra.
Yeah, that was just a really nice combo from Sume. I'm assuming it's pronounced Sume. My apologies if it's mispronounced, but yeah, just a really nice combo. Got the snare, got the Q, got the plants going, and they knew that the summoners were down from the previous fight, so really well done.
They're definitely going to give the bot lane a little bit more push advantage and being able to catch up a little bit as that Ashe is 13 CS behind. That definitely does open up the Drake possibility of going towards Drake, and it looks like Aatrox is going to try to make his way into the bot lane and get some kind of pick under the Zyra, or maybe even the Ashe. As he goes to
yeah, this is a nice
ult comes out onto the Zyra, and the ult come out from the Ashe as well. And it looks like both of them are going to be able to escape. No, Ashe
with no
barely
flash.
getting picked out by the Kate and the Morgana.
Yeah, no flash on Ashe. It's just coming up now. Just really good timing by Panzer there. The ult for extra movement speed. I believe he hit his blue smite, and now they're gonna go collect dragon for their troubles. And it's a fire drake, super important.
And that's definitely going to give a little the advantage that the blue team is going to need later on in the game. That infernal stack does really get very important later on in the game, as I believe it gives about 3% extra adaptive force, and it looks like Caitlyn's going to almost get caught out by the J4, and Zyra's going to have to pay heavily for the poke.
Yeah, ultimately the HP doesn't matter that much to Zyra. She'll probably recall here soon, but the flash being done on Caitlyn is super important because it means that Caitlyn can get ganked here, and there's not a lot that Caitlyn can do. So look for the Jarvan to come back here soon.
Looks like he's actually going to try to clear out his junk, clear out the vision, the river at least a little bit, and possibly make his way back down.
Yeah, I would be begging for a gank right now. When they see him, someone should check that brush, that little skinny brush with the pink ward in it is. Getting a lot of value. Oh, they replaced the ward. They replaced it into Tribush, so Jarvan doesn't know though. He's going to get his camp.
So we're about to hit the 10-minute mark, and both teams so far, but who do you think overall has a better advantage right now?
I think it's really difficult to say. I think a lot hinges on the next like 3 to 5 minutes of play. It really comes down to who hits their item spikes first and who gets the next gank off. I think Yorick was really smart here. He knows he's going to outscale no matter what, and so he bought a QSS first item, which is kind of troll against Mordekaiser because it gives the MR to counter the magic pen, and it cancels out the Mordekaiser ult, which is, you know, definitely a tilter. Really nice purchase. So
Definitely gonna help him get out of the Shadow Realm whenever the time comes.
Zyra needs to recall though. She's sitting on so much gold right now. She's sitting on 1,500 gold, which is a ton for a support. And without boots, I'd be really worried about dodging Morgana's abilities.
Especially is very vital once, because she can go back and grab a Moby boot if she does want to go and get Moby boot. But that extra movement speed not only is really good for getting back into lane, it's also really important for, like you said, dodging the Q, but repositioning and being able to get the abilities dropped onto either the ADC or whoever is the most caught out. But it looks like in the top lane, Yorick and Mordekaiser are Yorick's trying to catch out the Mordekaiser with the Aatrox being near, but it looks like barely gonna miss, as J4 is also gonna come up to try to help. Both skill shots go down, both miss, but J4 is gonna try to get the knock up and the ultimate, cutting off the Yorick, but
I would Shadow Realm that. Yup, there it is.
Barely getting the Aatrox. The flash coming out from the Yorick. Very good counter gank by the J4 indeed.
Yeah, the Islamic is having a really nice game playing around topside. I know his bot lane is suffering a little bit because of it, but you got to take your advantages where you can get them. You know the Yorick doesn't really have kill power with this QSS build, and you know that Catastrophe can handle himself. So I really like what they decided to do. I think it's a good game plan, and it seems like it's working out so far. Even if the item builds are a little funky from both sides, you know, you have Zhonya's first item coming in for Mordekaiser, and you have QSS first item. So,
and that is going to be a Rift Herald for the J4. Personally, where do you think would be the best spot to throw that down for them right now?
I think they should take the Rise, shove the lane in, and then walk down with the J4, gank this bot lane, and then take the bot turret. Dragon's coming up really shortly. You have a lot of stuff on the line there, and really, you can't do Dragon as a team without your ADC. So I think when you know Dragon's coming up, you want to focus on the bot lane, and that's what I think Dragon's gonna do. I don't know if Rise is gonna come with. They definitely have the damage to just kill with just Ashe, Rise, and J4. So
especially either team is gonna really want this next trade because it's an Ocean Drake, and that's just honestly, personally, my favorite and what I believe is the best trade in the game because it gives you the extra healing, the extra mana after fights that you need to either push or all that. But it looks like two ults are gonna come down in the bot lane, and the spell shield's gonna stop the Ashe ult, and Zyra's gonna go down for it as well, as Ashe has to flash, and Kay's also gonna answer with her ultimate to make sure Ashe has to go back to lane or go back to the fountain now. But that was definitely a really good spell shield on the Morgana, barely getting it off in time to keep Kate alive. And
yeah, the spell shield was super good, and it was just unfortunate Zyra flashing in. If she had just gone in and walked up instead of flashed, I think she would have lived. She could just flash out. But
it looks like in the top lane, Mordekaiser barely gonna get away from this fight as Yorick is taking this absolute punishment that Mordekaiser had to deal with there.
Yeah, this is the kind of point of the game that we were talking about earlier. It's gonna get more and more difficult for Mordekaiser. He really needs to finish an item, and hopefully he can stay relevant. But it's just a super in favor of Mordekaiser. So, you know, not much you can do.
Looks like Rise is gonna teleport back into the mid lane, putting the pressure back in the mid lane where it's needed. But that Drake.
Oh, the gank! Here comes Jarvan.
J4 going on to the Aatrox with his ultimate as well.
They still have the
Our
Death
Aatrox
Realm.
is still trying to fight. Gonna get the Mordekaiser out of it, get the massive amount of heal back, and look,
Oh, that's
underneath their own
really
tower,
well played.
2v1. Beautiful play for the Aatrox, definitely, and that is gonna be first tower for the game. Not even have to pop off the Rift Herald, or not being able to pop off the Rift Herald for red team. They definitely are gonna need to play that soon in order to make that trade a little bit less impactful.
Yeah, I'd say they have about a minute left to use it, probably a little less than a minute. But it was just a really well executed dive. Aatrox took advantage of his healing on his ultimate, and it's kind of the natural lane power. Oh, big play here.
In the bot lane as Morgana almost goes down, but is able to get the binding onto the Zyra just in time, so she can actually get out of there.
So we're seeing a really small gold lead for oh my gosh, I know the acronym, but it's mediocre at best.
There you go.
We're seeing a very small gold lead for mediocre at best. Probably like 2K at this point. Yeah, it's just over 2K. I wouldn't say it's super small, but I also wouldn't say it's super impactful. It really, to me, what it seems like is some synergy. I think especially in this bot lane, what you want to see is Zyra chunk down the spell shield for Morgana, so that when Ashe ults, there's no spell shield. And it's just little things like that are causing issues. I bet they use Herald here. I bet they use, yep, here it is.
There's the Herald, and interestingly enough, Yorick threw down his ultimate down to the lane. I don't know if that was really a good call as he was about to go down, but I guess it keeps them down in the bot lane a little bit more. But that Herald is not having a fun time in the Nivea. Alright, goes in trying to get the Rise and gonna get finished by the Caitlyn ultimate. Mordekaiser going in trying to get anything stunned by the Anivia in return, taking Aatrox to the Shadow Realm for a 1v1. Not going to be able to really do much, though, against him, though.
Both
And
teams
it
are a
was
little worried. Oh, that was a really nice trap placement.
barely coming out of Shadow Realm until Zyra is going to respond back with her ultimate as well. J4 ulting, getting 3 of them, but I don't think that's going to be enough. Oh, Ash comes
Zyra's doing damage. Here comes Ash.
Zyra getting off the stopwatch and going to be able to barely escape with 10 health, but Ash is going to have to sadly pay the price, and Nivea's egg thankfully be able to save her.
And this
Wow,
this is the Yorick horizon that we're hitting now too. The Aatrox had added so much value to that fight. This is such a clutch pick from Panzer the Great. Really impressive that he can pilot this champion so well as a jungle main. You know, this is a kind of a top lane champ that has had some limited success in the jungle, but the amount that he's able to sit there and tank, and you know, he baited everybody out with this. And now the Yorick is able to just sit there and take towers. They need to consider who's side laning, who's gonna sit in the mid lane, and it looks like Mediocre at Best is in full control of the map. So super advantageous. You know, they basically won a 4v5, although it was kind of a slow 4v5 for Monster Mash. You got to be worried about where things are going to go from here.
So, wonderful play in the mid lane. That definitely gives the blue side, or gives Mediocre at Best the advantage for sure. Not only with gold, but the second drink coming on that as well. What do you think Monster Mash could have done to actually turn that more into their favor there?
I think they needed their players to be arrive sooner. I think there was some strange fights there, because if you look at it on paper, you're like, yeah, 5 players fought against 4 players. But really what happened was it was a 3v2, then it was a 2v1, then it was a 2v2. Like, it just kind of all trickled in. So you want everyone to be arriving at about the same time, and you want to be choosing your engages and making sure that when you're fighting, you're all meaning to fight. Because, you know, the Ashe showing up so late, and yeah, her arrow was good, Zyra did some good damage, but there's a lot of vulnerability there if you don't have the front line. The front line was already dead by the time Ashe even thought about getting there, so I wonder what happens with the top side. You have a super long lane here that Ryze is going to sit in. At least Ryze is going to get his money. He's probably already done. No, he's not quite done his Archangels, but he's almost at his Archangels. And once he gets that fully stacked with the tier and the Roa, he can do a lot. Oh man.
He's going to make Mordekaiser pay for being... Mordekaiser has to go for the Zillions, but it's still not going to be enough. The massive amount of burst that just came from Anivia right there was unbelievable at that.
Yeah, Anivia is really good sustained damage fighter, and the issue here is that if you look at Mordekaiser's items, he has a Zhonya's, which is armor, and a Ninja Tabi's, which is armor. So there's no way he's going to compete with Anivia in a one-on-one. I just think you got to be more careful about taking those fights. You know, really, Mordekaiser's waiting on his Leandri's Torment. He's really not going to be a factor in the game until Leandri's Torment comes out.
It looks like Aatrox is going round 2 underneath the tower.
Here comes Ryze.
Zyra.
That was a little greedy.
And it looks like J4 is going to take out Rainbows in the process. Definitely really hard, really bad time underneath the tower this time with Aatrox, though, as didn't expect 4 people there that time. Definitely a great response to the Aatrox dive.
Yeah, I would say just an over greedy dive, but they're not going to lose much for it. Anivia can still do her thing, as long as Samurai needs to be really careful here. He's having an underrated game. I think he's been playing really well. Catastrophe's been playing really well. It just comes down to some champion matchup issues. I think even if Monster Mash loses this game, and it kind of looks like they're on the back foot for now, they should still be happy with where they are as a team. I think they're pretty strong, and they've shown that they can go toe-to-toe with a 2-0, so with the 2-0 team. So we'll see what happens. I'm not writing them off yet. I'm not saying it's over, but track record-wise, they look way better than they did last week, which is you know, that's kind of what you want to go for when you lose both your games. You know, steady improvement.
Yeah, with the synergy of Monster Mash starting to get a little bit better, maybe they'll be able to come back around from this. It's not too much of a difference. 20 minutes in, and the total kills is only 17 at the moment, which is honestly really low for being 22 minutes into the game. Even when it comes to objectives, there's only 4 towers and 2 drakes that have funneled through so far. So both teams are doing really well trying to get objectives, trying to maintain not losing players. Most of these have actually just been picks. Like right now in the mid lane, Rise is going to get caught out by the Anivia. Ghana Kate. J4 is going to try to get into assist, but is not going to be able to go in time. Having to burn the flash to get out of there as well.
Yeah, it was a really nice catch out. I think players are not used to the coordinated efforts. I think normally you take the tower, you back off in something like solo queue, and then here, you know, people are going to push their advantage. So
looks like Yorick might as well get picked off. No, looks like he's going to take.
No, he was fighting over the red, and they're going to get the dragon. So this is a really nice divergence. I think the dragon control with the Caitlyn is super smart. Anivia has good pressure. This is a really nicely designed team comp by mediocre at best.
It's going to also give them their second Drake and give them a lot more damage across the board for everyone, which is going to make it a little bit harder for people who haven't really gotten their tank items yet or their sustain.
Yeah, I think Jarvan has come online with his Gargoyle Stoneplate Cinderhulk. You know, he's probably looking at a Warmogs or a actually I'd be looking at a Spirit Visage just because of how much damage the Anivia is going to be pumping out later in the game. But yeah, they really need to find a fight where Ashe and Rise can participate equally. That's really what I would look for if I was Monster Mash. I'm saying, okay, how can I get the Ashe to free hit and the Rise to free hit? If you can figure that out, you're in good shape.
We're definitely starting to get to the point of the game where the Baron is going to start really being glanced at, but it looks like in the Rise is
Rise does damage. Here comes teleport.
And Yorick. Rise is going to get taken out of it. Mordekaiser is going to take down Morgana with his Shadow Realm. It looks like he's trying to take his money and leave, but Anivia coming in with the teleport doesn't help at all. Sonya's going to have to go out as well.
Here comes Zyra, but we'll see what it does.
Not going to be enough. Now Zyra needs to get out of there with her life this time. Great attempts, but just not going to be there in time. It looks like Yorick is going to be able to pick out the Zyra as well. There goes another Zonia's as well, but not going to be enough. And it looks like Aatrox is going to be able to get the Ashe in the mid lane as well. Ashe ulting in the wrong direction.
Yeah, it happened
when
you're trying to
J4
run away.
may have to also pay the price as the under tower ace.
Yeah, cross map ace is always difficult. I think we're I think, you know, we talked about this about 5 minutes ago. Mediocre best had a decent advantage, and it really depended on how the game played out from there. The ball's been in their court the whole time, so
Looks like Rise is
really well done. Rise is doing what he can though.
Barely both of them going to be able to escape out of there. Really good trades, but definitely the damage is overwhelming for both of them. But it looks like Aatrox, Morgana, and Caitlyn are going to try to sneak out this Baron while they're too busy dealing with everyone else. Hawkshot comes out, but they're not going to be able to get there in time. And that is going to be a Baron for the blue team. And he's definitely may be able to seal the deal this time around. As blue team now has all 5 Baron buffs onto their champions.
Yeah, really nicely done. What I really like about mediocre at best so far this season is they do a really nice job splitting the map. They'll fight in the bot lane and do Baron at the same time. They'll make an aggressive play at the top side, and they'll go get Dragon. We've seen them do this consistently this game and last week. So you can tell that they're always thinking about the 4-1 style, and they're always thinking, hey, I'm doing something. What can someone else do in the meantime to, even if my play doesn't work out, the next play works out. It's, you know, I don't want to make crazy high compliments here. You know, it looks like they're going to remain undefeated, but this is the kind of style that G2 plays. G2 is always looking for something happening on the map, and that's what these guys are doing. It's a little different. They're not G2. We're not trying to say that they're the best team in the world right now, but
they're definitely looking at pro strats and saying, hey, I want to give this a shot, and I want to do this, and I want to have fun playing like this.
Exactly. I don't even know if it's a champions or style thing. They've played some different styles, but they're always saying, hey, what's the next thing we can do? And I think that's really cool when League of Legends teams look at, okay, we're doing this, what's next? We're doing this, what's next?
It's like
They're always on. Oh, there we go.
gonna take a fight in the jungle against J4 and Rise, but
Small mechanical misplay from
J4
J4.
sustained against both of them, and Rise trying to ult out, but gonna miss the ultimate, having to flash away, but Aatrox still hard on the tail. Ash ult come out, but Caitlyn's gonna answer back to the Rise to finish her off. And it looks like Aatrox still wanted to be underneath the towers, going for it, getting rooted though. Zyra ult coming out, barely gonna get the taken out with all
The
the
shutdown
CC.
is worth for red side. This is really just the Aatrox took over the game there. There was a small mechanical misplay, but ultimately champion power going hugely in favor of mediocre at best.
Then, but it's not going to be enough as Ash is going to be flashed onto and taken out by the Yorick. That brings J4 up, but I don't think J4 is going to have the stopping power for this. This is going to be a game here as Baron is still just tearing through the base right now. Wonderful plays from both teams. Definitely a great attempt for Monster Match, but just not going to be enough for the mediocre at best, as they are now 3-0 undefeated currently.
Yeah, I think they held their own for a long time, but it was clear who's more practiced. And I think this was a deliberate strategy by mediocre at best, and that's what really brings it home for me. Let's talk MVP candidates really quick while we get prep for game 2. We got that starting up really soon. So who do you got?
Oh, without a doubt, I have to give it to the Aatrox for not the one, not the, but 3 separate tower dives. The second one was kind of iffy, but he still gave it his heart and gave it all he could. But the 2 other tower dives were honestly one of the most game changes out there. So definitely got to give my money to that Aatrox, and also having the most amount of damage in the game, and also with the
I think that's damage taken. I think he had damage taken. Did he do the most damage? That's super impressive.
Total damage to champion. Yeah.
Oh my
Aatrox
god, he
is-
did. Wow, he did do the most damage in the game. That's super impressive. That's even more impressive. Yeah, I totally agree with you. Aatrox is my MVP too. Not only did he get to bamboozle them in draft with his creative pick, but he also played out the matchup really well. Oftentimes in this kind of flex pick scenario, someone has to sacrifice, and they took what should be like a bunt and get onto first base. They took that and said, "Hey, we're hitting a home run." So super well played, super good piloting of the champion, and just really impressive. So congratulations, Panzer the Great. You're our MVP for this game. Unanimous.
Very, very awesome, unique pick there. So coming in next, we are gonna have, as I have to re-pull up my
Pull up the
list.
schedule. We got Nocturnal Dragons against RAR. So give us a few minutes, guys. We're gonna get reset here. We'll be back. We're gonna get some music going, and let's take it away. So really excited for game 2, Nocturnal Dragons versus RAR.